Okay, so now I'm going to do a blood draw. So for this patient, I'm going to be drawing out of the cephalic vein. So normally you would shave an animal's leg to reduce contamination, but since this is a donor volunteer dog, we're not going to shave the leg. So I am going to use alcohol, and it's going to have to sit there for about 15 seconds, and this is going to remove any contamination. My restrainer is occluding the vein and holding the back of the elbow to keep it in place. When I insert the needle, I'm going to make sure that the bevel is up. So I'm going to feel for the vein, insert the needle, and then draw the plunger back. And then once I remove the needle, I'm going to hold where I inserted the needle with my thumb for at least a few seconds to make sure that it clots. So now we are going to do a buccal mucosal bleeding test. So the equipment you're going to need is going to be stretch gauze, and this is going to be to tie back the gums. You're going to need a filter paper as well as a lancet. This one is a spring-loaded lancet, and then a timer. So I am going to tie back the gum. So now to perform the buccal mucosal bleeding test, I am going to stab the gums with a lancet, and so I'm going to do it at a premolar level, and I'm going to be sure not to touch the mucosa when I stab it. So at that point, I am going to set a timer, and every 5 seconds I'm going to blot the blood. Okay, so I'm going to blot the blood every 5 seconds until it stops bleeding. Since this dog is sedated, the dextromethorphan is going to reduce the blood pressure, so it is not going to produce a lot of blood or bleed for a long time. Okay, and it looks like it has stopped bleeding at 50 seconds. So now we're going to learn how to make a blood smear. So the materials you're going to need is a pipette, whole blood. I have mine in an EDTA lavender tube. I have 2 microscope slides, and they are already labeled. They say Rambo Stiff because this is Rambo. I have distilled water, and this is for rinsing the blood smear between the different stains. I have my stains. I have Dipquick. The brand is Dipquick, and then I have my fixative, my stain, and then my counter stain. Okay, and then in addition to that, all I have is this clip, and this clip is going to attach to the slide to dip it into the stain. So after you have inverted the blood in the tube, you're going to take a very small drop of blood. I like to use maybe at most that much blood. And then what you're going to do is you're going to drop it near the frosted edge. You're going to take the other slide while holding the first slide between your index and your middle finger, and you are going to draw the second slide back at a 30-degree angle and touch the blood. And then after you let it spread across the slide, you're going to push forward in a solid straight motion. Just very smooth, not too much force. After that, you need to dry the slide by gently waving it in the air, and this is going to help reduce the crenation and also help fix the cells to the slide. So now the slide is dry. I'm going to place this clip onto it. So first it is going to go into the fixative solution, and it's going to go in the fixative solution for 1 minute. It's been a minute, so I'm going to take the slide out of the fixative solution. I'm going to spray the back side of the slide with distilled water. Okay, so it's been 60 seconds in the fixative solution. So I'm going to remove the slide, and then I'm going to very gently rinse it with distilled water on the back of the slide. And be careful not to drip droplets of the water into the stains, because that can degrade the stains. Okay, so now it's going to go into the stain solution for 30 seconds. So now it's been 30 seconds in the stain solution, so I'm going to take it out, and then I'm again going to gently rinse it with the distilled water. And then it's going to go into the counter stain for another 30 seconds. In 30 seconds, so I'm going to take the slide out of the counter stain and again gently rinse it with distilled water. So now that I have it rinsed off, we're going to dry it facing upwards. So I'm going to put it here to dry. Now that the slide is dry, we are going to read the slide. We are going to be checking for accurate counts of the different blood molecules, so white blood cells. We're going to be checking the counts for red blood cells and platelets, and also checking for their morphology, looking for any abnormalities as well as parasites. So you're going to start off looking at a low power magnification. We're going to do 100 times. So always start at the lowest magnification and then move up. So I'm going to get it focused, and when it's in this low power magnification, we're just going to get a general idea of cell count. We're going to look for platelet clumping as well as parasites and abnormally large cells. After we've done that, we are going to do oil immersion. It's going to be 1,000-time magnification. I have my immersion oil right here, and I'm going to put it on the monolayer. So when you're on the low magnification, you look for the monolayer, so you find the feathered edge, and then it's going to be between the feathered edge and then where the cells are really dense. So I'm going to put on the oil. Just 1 drop is good. And then I'm going to count all the different white blood cells. I'm going to record any abnormalities, and I'm also going to take an average of the platelets. In this slide, there is slight crenation of the red blood cells. It looks like per field of vision there is approximately 6 to 8 platelets. They look all within normal size. The red blood cells are all about the same size, and the color is even, so no hypochromaticism or hyperchromaticism. And then so far it looks like the white blood cells look fairly normal. So now we are going to request a chemistry test, and so to do this I am just going to go to the other patient right here. I'm going to go to the description box, push F2, and then in this computer you look up CST and then push done. Now we're going to run a blood chemistry test. In this test we are going to do chemistry 17. We are going to test for electrolytes and then also STMA and T4. So on the IDEX lab station, I'm going to click the animal. I'm going to click run, and then the machine that I'm going to use, we are also going to be doing a heartworm test, so I'm going to request that one as well, and I'm going to push run. Already the blood has clotted and has been spun down, and so we're going to use serum. You can also use plasma for this test. So I am going to pipette some of the serum off, and then put it in this little cup. I am going to click the patient on here, and then I am going to pick the type of blood, so it's going to be serum, and then I'm going to push next. So first I'm going to put the serum in. It's going to go into this little spot right here. And then I'm going to put in the electrolyte slides. Then I'm going to put in the SDMA. And then I'm going to do Chem 17. And then the T4 slides. And then I'm going to put the slide wash in here. So now that this is done, I am going to push run, and it'll be ready to go. So now we're going to request a heartworm test. So on this computer system, I'm going to push escape to search for the patient, and then I'm going to type the first 3 letters of the patient's name and then the first 3 letters of the last name and push enter. And then I'm going to go to this description box here, and I'm going to push F2, and I'm going to type in heartworm, and it's going to come up canine heartworm antigen, and I'm going to push done, and then it's going to be requested. We are going to do the heartworm test for this animal. So the equipment I am going to use is going to be the conjugate, this little vial. This just to set the vial in, as well as the actual heartworm test, which is going to include a pipette in it and in the blood. So you can use whole blood, plasma, or serum. I am currently going to be using serum because that's what I have. So what you're going to do first is fill the vial with 4 drops of conjugate. And then I'm going to put in 3 drops of the serum. And then I'm going to gently invert it about 10 times to make sure that it is thoroughly mixed. And then I'm going to pour it into the little well of the snap test. And then once the blood has made it to this little circle right here, I'm going to snap the test down. I'm going to set a timer for 8 minutes, and then I'll read the test once it's done. So it is now full. So I'm going to snap it down and set a timer for 8 minutes. Okay, so it's been 8 minutes, and so the test is ready to be read. So the control is this top dot, and if it was positive, there would be either a blue dot here or on the other side, and since there's no blue dots, the test is negative. Okay, so now we are going to do packed cell volume and total protein. Packed cell volume generally checks for anemia, and total solids or total protein has a couple uses, but in veterinary medicine it's primarily used to check for dehydration in the patient. So the packed cell volume is going to be the total percentage of red blood cells out of the blood. Equipment that we are going to use is going to be the hematocrit tubes. We have this, which is the cryptoseal is for clay to seal the bottom of the hematocrit tubes. We have this, which is going to measure the amount of red blood cells in our tubes. We have blood. This is EDT, anticoagulated blood, and then we're also going to use a refractometer and then we have a very specific centrifuge for packed cell volumes. So to start off, we have two different kinds of hematocrit tubes. This one is heparinized, and these ones are non-heparinized. Since my blood is already anticoagulated in the EDTA, I'm going to use the non-heparinized tubes. So you use 2 tubes, and then when you put it in the centrifuge, it'll balance out. We're going to want to fill them up about 3/4 of the way up. So they're going to have these nice little blue lines. You're going to fill it up on the opposite end. Okay, so I'm going to invert the EDTA tube a few times, about 10 times gently. And then I'm going to gently pour it on its side. And then we're going to fill up the tubes about 3/4 of the way, maybe a little bit more.
Jen said no because she's sickly in room 3.
Just because I tend to spill some of the blood out before I put it on the clay when I plug it. So we leave it at... Okay, so I'm going to plug the first one. So you just put it onto the clay, and then it's going to make sure it doesn't come out anymore. So we're going to fill this one up to the same length as the other one, and then I'm going to plug that one too. So when you do it, you have to plug it kind of quickly, otherwise the blood is just going to pour right out the end, and then it's not going to be 3/4 of the way filled. So now we're going to centrifuge our hematocrit tubes. So this is a microspin 24, so this is specifically used for spinning down hematocrit tubes. Zoom in into this. So you can see in here it specifically has spots for hematocrit tubes. So we are going to put it in, both of them in exactly opposite, so that it is balanced out and all the way to the back. The clay is at the outermost rim, and then we are going to spin this top on. It's very important that it's all the way on and tight, otherwise they will fly off and then just smash against the walls of the centrifuge. So you have to close it firmly, and then it gets spun for 3.5 minutes. The microspin is now done, so I'm going to unscrew the lid. And I'm going to gently take out the hematocrit tubes. So you can see on the hematocrit tubes, you can see the packed red blood cells. That's going to be the red. The white, let's see, it's kind of blurry. This very thin white layer is going to be the white blood cells, and then the top is going to be the plasma. So to measure the hematocrit tubes, we have this nice little chart. So it's very important when you do this that the bottom is going to be lined up to right above the clay. So you can see how it's right above the clay there. The top of it is actually going to be at the top of the plasma. So let's see if I can get it lined up to show you. Okay, so you can see the line is going to be just above the clay, and then the top over here is going to be just above the plasma. So then I'm going to keep it here, and then I'm going to follow it down this way. So we're at about 57 packed cell volume. And so now we are going to do the total protein with the refractometer. So this is a refractometer. So to do the total protein, we are going to break the hematocrit tube. So the best way to do this that I have found is just to do it at the edge of the counter. So just above the buffy coat layer, we're going to snap it gently. So now all we have is that plasma, and we're going to let the plasma drip onto the refractometer. So I have plasma onto the refractometer. Let me get the light up. Okay. And so now you're going to look into the light with it, and then on the left hand side usually you'll have a chart for total protein. So the total protein is going to be 7 for this dog.